Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending this afternoon's webinar, The Future of Digital Guest Engagement. My name is Ryan DeLello. I'm a content specialist for Paytronix. I'll be your moderator today, and I'm very excited to be joined by Hillary, if you would go to the next slide. Hillary Hadley, the Senior Loyalty Strategist for Paytronix, and Aubrey Giasson, the Product Manager for Paytronix. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Really excited to be here. So today on the webinar, we'll be talking about the future of digital guest engagement. We're going to start with sort of a high-level view of the goal of guest engagement, why it's important, and then we'll talk a little bit about a key metric used to measure success called customer lifetime value, before going into what digital guest engagement can look like throughout the customer journey, how Paytronix leverages AI solutions to enhance and simplify engagement strategies, and how surveys can be used to retain guests who may have had a bad experience. And then at the end, we'll sort of wrap this up and tie it back to the value of guest engagement. So I'm sure most everyone knows that the main goal of guest engagement is to drive frequency and spend. And it's becoming more and more crucial these days to show that you know your guests and to be able to leverage personalization in your engagement strategies. And this can be kind of a tricky thing to do. The challenge is that there's a lot of variables going into how to personalize, right? All types of guest behaviors can be considered. So a lot of times it can be hard to determine who to target and when and with what. But we do see this as a really worthwhile challenge to solve. Connecting with loyalty members is worth it. We see that loyalty members are the top 10% of guests for any given brand. So to accomplish this personalized guest engagement, we've seen that more than 90% of leading businesses are investing in AI solutions. Artificial intelligence and machine learning models can help pull all of the customer data together to highlight key patterns, predict future behavior, and easily action on all of that information. So when we talk about this idea of impacting customer value, we use a metric that's become really key in the marketing space called customer lifetime value, or CLV. At Paytronix, we have an AI-based tool that calculates CLV based on 5 facets of guest behavior, including how recently we've seen the guest and how long they've been in a loyalty program, their usual visit cadence, when the last time we saw them was, and how much they spend on an average visit, as well as a prediction of how likely this guest is to remain active going into the future. So are we likely to see them for a future visit? So as guests visit over time, their customer lifetime value is going to update as well. So we're going to take a look at this in action. So we have our customer here, and as she's visiting, each time she visits, her customer value is going to update. And the amount is going to change based on how much she spends on that visit and how long it's been since we've seen her last. So at the end of this, we can sort of come up with, at any given point in time, a single lifetime value for each customer. And then we can wrap this up at the brand level and talk about the average customer lifetime value. So at Paytronix, with an average customer lifetime value of $370 and 225 million members across programs, we see $83 billion in total customer lifetime value across Paytronix clients. So because our CLV metric is calculated across our entire customer and guest data set, it's really proven to be valuable for any type of brand. Convenience stores, quick service restaurants, fine dining, anything across the spectrum, our model can sort of be flexible to be used with. So the next question that comes up is, when in the customer journey do we leverage this kind of AI-based personalization to drive customer lifetime value? So we've identified 3 main areas to really personalize marketing and drive frequency and spend. So these include nurturing new guests, building strong relationships with active guests, and retaining guests as they start lapsing. So these are three important phases of the customer journey for everyone in the industry, every type of brand. And at Paytronix, we've crafted specific AI tools for each phase to really drive personalization. And so for the meat of today's webinar, we want to take you through some of the key types of guest personalization that can be layered onto these parts of the customer journey. So I'm going to pass it over to Aubrey to talk about the first phase, which is nurturing.
Yeah, thanks, Hillary. So to start with nurturing, there's a few things that we want to talk about. First of all, like we kind of mentioned, nurturing is the idea of taking this, guest who's early on in their journey with your brand and making sure that you grow them through the first few visits to make sure that you're top of mind and that you can bring them in as a repeat customer and, build desirable behavior for your brand. So when you're looking at a nurturing flow, there's a lot of different things to consider, and it can get complicated pretty quickly. The things you want to consider in building out this kind of flow is, what happens if a guest visits after their first message? What happens if they don't visit? How should your brand messaging proceed and kind of build on as you go through the flow? Did the customer visit frequently as compared to the rest of your population? Did they open emails? There's a lot to go through here, and this flow can be really, really valuable, but we've seen value in simplifying it using artificial intelligence. And so what we've decided to do is specifically use artificial intelligence to determine the best time to contact a guest based on their individual habits. We'll use information about the brand as a whole, as well as about the individual guest to decide when to reach out to them. And we've organized this into 3 separate timelines based on how often the guest visits. So there's 3 touch points on each timeline. We have visit 0, we have visit 1, and we have visit 2 as well. And we added these touch points so you can reach out to guests and create messaging or add offers to kind of see what's next for them. And so, hopefully, if your messaging works, a guest would be able to be moved from the 0 visit timeline into the visit 1 timeline after that first message. So they're not getting any messages that they don't need. They're not getting offers they don't need. They're just moving into the next timeline. And the same thing would happen on visit 1 as well. And so, why are we kind of looking at this across 3 visits? And it's because, it's really important to move that guest through their first few visits and build, that kind of good behavior with your brand. A new loyalty member will have a customer lifetime value of $94 and a likelihood of next visit of 44%. But by the time they reach their 3rd visit, that customer lifetime value will go up quite a bit, and they're twice as likely to visit again. And so having someone reach their 3rd visit just makes them a lot stickier for your brand and really grows, their value as well. So, nurturing people into that 3rd visit is really important. And to continue building them, Hillary will share some information as well.
Yes. So once we've got those guests in the program and we've nurtured them, we really want to focus on building good behavior with active guests. And there are a lot of different directions that we could take when thinking about marketing to active loyalty members based on their behavior. So a few examples here: we could send an offer on a guest's preferred day of week to really heighten their interest in the offer. Or we could challenge guests to visit just a bit more than their own usual cadence. And so today we want to highlight a really great comprehensive segmentation model that we call advanced segmentation. So ultimately, advanced segmentation is an RFM model which groups guests based on the recency, frequency, and monetary total of their recent transactions. So this allows us to really easily identify groups of guests who interact with the brand in specific ways so that we can personalize marketing and engagement strategies based on how they interact. So how recently they've been in, how often they visit, how much they spend when they visit. And advanced segmentation creates 4 main types of guest segments. We've got our core loyalists or our brand loyalists who are going to be your most frequent and dedicated guests. Then we have a segment for more casual loyalty guests. They're still visiting reliably, but maybe less frequently. Then we also have a segment for guests who may be at risk of lapsing. So they're starting to visit a little less than we've seen them in the past. And then finally, we have sort of a segment for guests that we don't know very much about just because we've only seen them a couple times. So that's sort of our bucket of, we want to get you in and learn a little more about you. So having these guest segments makes it really easy to focus on the right guests for any marketing initiatives. So for example, as we're focusing on building behavior in active guests, we can focus on those active guest segments. We can sort of set aside the lapsing and low information segments for other types of engagement strategies. So even if you don't have an AI solution, these are the broad types of segmentations that we find really valuable when thinking about personalizing engagement strategies. And we've seen advanced segmentation work extremely well for clients and drive really great results. So one example, we have a sandwich client who compared a one-size-fits-all offer strategy against a right-sizing the offer strategy that was really based on guest activity. So the most active guest segments received a smaller add-on reward to reduce the cannibalization on already planned visits. And then the richer free sandwich offer was reserved for lapsing guests who may not have visited without that incentive. So as a result, the brand saw that they got an increase in incremental sales of 150% and a 265% increase in incremental visits. So using these advanced segments to really right-size the offers based on guest activity really increased the impact of this offer for this brand. So moving on to our final piece of the guest journey, retaining and re-engaging lapsing customers. So one of the trickier aspects of retaining lapsing guests is determining the right time to reach out to them. We find that the use of AI tools is really helpful here to easily identify when to reach out to each lapsing guest. So I'll be sharing first how the Paytronix one-to-one win-back tool has really improved customer re-engagement strategies for our clients. And then I'm going to turn it over to Aubrey to talk about surveys and how they're not only helpful to gather feedback from guests, but they can also help retain or recover guests who have had a bad experience. So starting with one-to-one win-back, thinking about sending offers to lapsing guests. As I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with, different customers can have different visit cadences even within the same brand. So some visit weekly while others may only visit once or twice a month. And we have different expectations of when we should see each of these customers again. So for an infrequent guest, it might make sense that we might not have seen them for 3 weeks. Whereas for a weekly guest, we'd be concerned if we haven't seen them in 3 weeks. So because of this, because of all the different types of guest cadences, the traditional one-size-fits-all campaign approach isn't always optimal for winning back lapsing guests. So leveraging AI solutions, we've built what we call a one-to-one win-back model, which identifies the best times to reach out to every guest based on their personal visit cadence. And across our clients, we've seen great gains in guest retention when using this one-to-one win-back model. This solution is 25% more effective compared to the traditional one-size-fits-all type of lapsed campaigns. And the nice part is we let the AI solution do all the hard work on the back end, and it really only requires a radio button selection to set up these personalized campaigns. And as an example, PDQ Chicken has seen really great results when leveraging the one-to-one win-back solution, including 23% spend lift and 66% visit lift. So they send guests 3 different offers, increasing in richness, as the win-back model determines that the guests are more and more likely to be lapsed and require a richer incentive to get them to visit again. And the real power of this solution is that it identifies when individual guests are out of their own rhythm and then it sends them the right offer at the right time without all of the legwork attached to that if you were to do it manually. Now, if you don't have an AI solution available, there are still some ways you can maximize your re-engagement efforts. So a few general tips here. Think about right-sizing the offer for when you're reaching out to guests. It's great to start with maybe a message only or a smaller discount, and then gradually scale up to larger discounts across touch points. And then generally trying to keep the richest rewards still under 55% of the subtotal. We always recommend holding out a control group to be able to quantify your results and talk about things like 23% spend lift. And then use reminder messaging to your advantage. Make sure to send reminders about offers and really leverage the subject line to talk about the reward and the reward value to make sure that guests understand what they could be missing out on. So Aubrey, back over to you for guest surveys.
Yeah, so another important part of re-engaging guests who might be lapsing is feedback via guest surveys. And so, I'm sure every marketer has run a survey to gather feedback on the guest experience, and these in particular are integrated into our online ordering product. And many customers like Taylor at The Possible see the value of having that information to make changes and improve and just, generally see how you're doing against guest expectations. And so these surveys give you the ability to change and respond to guest feedback by reaching out to them or by making changes to your program at the store level to improve. And in this area, you can do this without leveraging AI, but AI can help you kind of show you what you're missing with open-ended questions. It will let you respond quickly and reprioritize actions. We think, we're seeing that providing and responding to feedback is really important to customers. So 63% of consumers think businesses need to do a better job listening to feedback, and 96% of negative feedback goes without a reply. And we think that's because, getting back to all of the negative feedback can take a lot of time to, read through them and decide what the right action is and then reply. So in our online ordering platform, we've implemented AI to make it really easy to get back to guests about their experiences. So here you'll see we have a guest who provided some feedback about ordering a pizza with green olives on it, but it ended up having black olives, and everybody has black olives, so they're in a bit of a bad situation there, but it ruined their night. And you can also see specific customer information here about this guest. So how often did they order across this one location or your whole brand? What has their feedback been like, and other information that might change how you want to treat this kind of situation. And so after that, looking at this feedback, we're able to then decide what benefit we want to provide. So, do we want to extend them an extra discount or an extra, free item? And we can also decide to issue a refund. So in this case, clearly the pizza had a few issues, but maybe we could want to refund their whole check in another situation. So here we'll refund the pizza. And then lower on the bottom of the page, we get to the section where you're creating the email. Now you're welcome to write the email yourself, but we've rolled out a Write For Me tool that will take the parameters you've put in and generate an email message based on that. And it's going to be, polite and professional, but it's going to do a really good job of putting together an email that makes sense for the situation. So, we're apologizing about the mix-up with olives. We've issued a refund for the order, and we hope they'll come back soon. And so this is something that's really exciting to leverage and use for individual orders. And we've seen that, offering a coupon leads to an incremental order a third of the time and boosts the total lifetime spend of that guest by $9. And offering the specific coupon will probably lift the next check by $2.50 when the coupon usually only costs $2.30. So the cost of the coupon is offset, right away in the next visit that the guest comes in. So, we've seen this is really valuable, both in the kind of way that you're responding to customers and getting back to them about what they've said about your brand, but also, in the recovery sense as well. Yeah, and so, we're excited about this and leveraging AI here. And then kind of bringing it back to the customer lifetime value that we've discussed and, how we've used that. I want to wrap up with a quote from our Chief Data Officer, Lee, about the importance of understanding customer lifetime value to make better decisions. So it's really important for everyone to understand. And we are seeing that AI can be used as a tool to continue improving those decisions and delivering better experiences for your customers. And that wraps up our content for today.